How's it going, guys? I have returned from the abyss of non reviewing activities, and I'm here with something that many of you may be familiar with, at least vaguely, if not very well, familiarized with, and that is this album right here, Burzum, Filosofem, I believe would be how you pronounce it. Uh, it is, if I'm not mistaken, Norwegian. Uh, which is, yeah, absolutely. Like that, I see no reason why it wouldn't be. Because it is by the famous Vard, uh, whatever his last name is, from the Netherlands. No, not the Netherlands. What am I talking about? From Norway. Gracious. So anyway, this album is one of the most, well praised albums that he has done. Probably his most critically acclaimed album, period. And it is my favorite, at least at this moment. Though I do also like the one that I can't pronounce at all and can't remember the title of. But I don't know. If I get it, I'll review it and then I'll look at it and read it off with him. But anyway, we are now listening to the first track, which is Dunkelheit. And if you look at this lyric sheet right here, which is right here, you can't really read it, kind of small, so I will do so for you. It says creeping and crawling, rustling and fluttering. And it has the lyrics, which I guess I'll read to you. Though I believe the lyrics are actually originally in Norwegian, and this is a translation. It says, there are two natural lights in this world, the sun and the moon. The first distorts the appearance of the other, often until it is unrecognizable. The sun gives us color, warmth, and clarity, while the moon gives us no color, coldness, and unclarity. We live in the sunlight, we make artificial sunlight. After something, Arvaker, I can't pronounce Norwegian, so I'll just butcher it. Arvaker and Alsvinr Sin by Sol have drawn down the sun in the sea in the west because we like color, warmth, and clarity. The startling point of our reality lies in this light. When Nagliferis' wife, night comes, our world disappear. Let's see. When Nagliferis' wife, night comes, our world disappears in a certain way. She's illuminated by light that we don't like. The colorless, cold, and indistinct moonlight. Strange beings show themselves in the woods, and the people drawn back into their reliable small houses. Out there, only forces of darkness reign. Yes, in the most powerful... No, what am I talking about? Yes, in the most true meaning of the word. The world becomes a totally different one. For some, the world becomes a place where it's worth living. For those who want to challenge these giants, who are brought to us by the moon in the shape of uncontrollable powers of nature, the world finally becomes a place really worth living in. And a small explanation of my own based upon the small amount that I know about this album and about his projects would be that he used to play these games with his friends where they would go out into the woods, these wild Norwegian kids, and they would have like these staves and like play swords, and they would play like Dungeons and Dragons type thing or something like that. Maybe not necessarily that itself, but something similar to that. And there was this one story he was telling about how he had been out in the woods and he jumped out because he thought it was his friends, and there was just this like family walking through the woods, and he scared the shit out of them. Like, I think he kind of liked that, the fact that he had scared them with his long, like, metalhead hair. And anyway, he basically he made this music for himself, which is very definitely something I can relate to. Though I do enjoy the idea of others listening to this, or to my music, not necessarily this, but also this. I do enjoy the idea of people listening to my music and appreciating it and sort of connecting with others through the music. But it's something that I've created personal to myself, and then I can hopefully place that out in the open, and others might be drawn to it, and I might be drawn to their music, and it creates this interweaving sort of web of understanding and human interaction through that art form. And the more obscure your music and the more personal it is to yourself, the more I think you get out of it, because there are less people who would understand it, and it distills down that group of people to the point where if you actually find someone who can relate to your music at that point, they are very much unique, but at the same time similar to yourself. But I think you understand, or hopefully you understand where I'm coming from with that. He also used to, and I'm just going off on a tangent here, but he also used to, he'd take this music and he would play it while he was driving through the woods in his car on like a cassette, I guess, back in the day. He'd make this music for himself, literally. And that's why I think it has that extra spark to it. Now, I have likewise listened to this very album, late, or not even late at night, but early morning hours, like midnight to 2 o'clock while driving around town. And it is quite an experience. You have to listen to it from beginning to end. That's the way it was intended, as all quality albums, in my opinion, are. But it's very entrancing, and it brings your mind, especially at that point in time of the night, that time of the day, night, whatever. It really puts you in a very interesting meditative state. It's characteristic of that time of the evening, appropriately enough, and it's just really fantastic, very deep, pulls you in. You hear all these layers, and there's so many layers because it's so dense. The quality of the recording was intentionally muddy and thick, and so it's very psychedelic, even, I guess you could say, though that word's thrown around all over the place, meaning a million things. I also really enjoy how the vocals are very buried, because I really have a thing against the vocals in pop music because they're so upfront all the time. It's really just too much for me. Like, people focus too much on the lyrics and vocals, I think. They're interesting, they're a means to an end, I appreciate them, but they should be interacting with the instruments. They shouldn't be, like, stealing the show. The instruments shouldn't just be backing the vocals. I think that it should all work together. And I think that's what this does. All the instruments are very muddy, the vocals are very muddy. I believe he said that, at least for his first record, when he recorded this, he asked the guy to find the shittiest mic that he could find. So they ended up using, like, this really crappy, like, headset, like a headset microphone to record everything. And it creates this really disgusting, dirty sound that creates that quality of just density and thickness, and everything is on an even plane. So, yeah. Very good album. I recommend it if you haven't listened to it before. Definitely listen to it all the way through. And it might take a few listens before you really grasp what's going on, or can really appreciate it. Like, it's an acquired taste. But this is true. I don't think I've mentioned yet, it is like one of the first of the second wave Norwegian black metal albums. or a group. He was. Sorry, I can't talk. He was. Burzum, in general, was sort of the forerunner of the second wave of black metal, I believe. Pretty sure. So, there that is. And there's a lot of other interesting things about Varg that you could learn about how he just recently got out of prison for murdering Euronymous, who was a metal musician in another metal band who had threatened to do a snuff film and killing him, and blah blah blah. Lots of black metal drama that always surrounds those people back then, and so on and so forth. But point being, good album, very thick, very dense, very psychedelic and brooding and thoughtful, and elicits very deep emotions. And that's all I have to say right now. Have a good one.